Hello everyone, Mark Session again, and today we'll create a 3D scene, but mostly organized and looking like a 2D one. Okay, so that is our goal. We'll use some assets and basically some principles that can help us on the long run. So let me close this, and here's a standard scene. If you open up the side panel, you will see that we are working in meters. The selected cube is 2 by 2. And actually we will keep it, so just going to numpad 1, selecting the cube and using the tool for transformation, and I'm dragging it away, and I will use it as a size for reference for a door, okay, because it's 2 meters in height, so it will be a good one starting out. Now the first thing is we have some prepared pictures, so let me go to the proper folder. So we have these prepared pictures, and these are all transparent, so these are cutouts. And as you see, we have these nice running edges around. So the way to import it is, of course, you can create a model, then create a texture on it, or you can go with add and image, and we have reference and background and mesh plane. So background is obviously not working for us because we want to use it and rotate it all around. Reference is an image that's not exactly visible for rendering, and we cannot really edit it. It's good, but as a reference, what we want to use is a mesh plane. So mesh plane is like a reference with geometry assigned. You can always convert a reference to mesh plane as well, or mesh, but it's better if you start it right away. So there we are. Which was the first? It's the facade, thaw block, PNG. In my case, you can basically download and cut out these pictures, or you have your own drawings, hopefully, and you can save a transparent PNG. You don't need many to practice with this. So right now it's not visible, and the reason is because we are using the solid mode, so it's not showing up. Material preview will allow us to see, and as it goes, this is the front side, so we have the cutouts, and we have this mesh plane. Now if you go to the front view, you may notice that we are watching only the edge of this. The problem is the Z rotation, because Z is the blue and an upwards axis. So let me hit it to 0, type in, and the other thing is that this red line, the x-axis, is representing us the ground. So of course the building is not sinking into the ground, so we want to definitely lift that up. So that's what I will do, and I'm curious. Here's the cube. So what else we can observe? If the cube is 2 meters, that means this door is about 2 centimeters. So we definitely have to scale it up, and this is 1 meter, so it's a 1 by 10 at the moment. Now before we do the scale, if you just start scaling, it will scale at the center point. There's a better solution if you right away change the pivot point, and in this case you don't really want to move it because it's already on the ground, but you want to select the model. When you hit tab, it will automatically into edit mode, and everything is selected by default because this model is just freshly created. You can press G and Z to restrict the movement on the Z axis, and grab, and G and Z and grab, and make sure that you have a little bit of an overlap here at the bottom to have a stand. And now once we have that, we can use S to scale it up, and scale and scale, because we have the stairs, there should be an offset, so right now it looks nice. Okay, so of course you will move it around, scale it around. Right now it's about 11.5 meters. So if you want to keep things like this, and you don't want to accidentally scale it up or rotate it, or you want to get back with Alt S or Alt R, and as you see, if you press Alt R, it will do this, because we have an X rotation as well. So what I will do is pressing Ctrl A, and rotation and scale is applied, reset, and now I will move it away, and I'm creating, at the moment, the first goal is to create an inventory of these elements. So again, we can use the mesh plane. Now the fastest way is not going up to add image, whatever, but Shift A and mesh plane, and that's the first one, and you can select right away the thing. Now there are multiple, it's possible to use multiple. I will do one more, City Hall, and press 1, zooming in with a comma, numpad comma, or dot, depending on your keyboard layout, but it's the numpad delete comma dot button. Right away, resetting this, go to edit mode, GZ, and lift it up. Leave edit mode and scale until we see these doors are somewhat matching. Okay, so now I'm satisfied with this sizing, maybe a little bit more, and Control A and rotation and scale. So Shift A, mesh, and we have the tower, and right away it's 0, edit mode, Z. Okay, that looks fine. And S and scale. Now here it's a little bit tricky because the door is up in this position. So I'll move it now. And applying Control A, rotation and scale. So that's working nice. And what do we have? We have a few more. So I'll Shift A, mesh plane, and now we want to get back the small block, the shop, and I think that's the inventory. So now I'm importing 2 images at the same time, and as you see, these are coming in and placed next to each other. So what I will do, I will select this one and this because this is the reference. Go to the front viewport, isolation, it's the backslash and numpad, selecting this model and make the rotation changes. Great, go to edit mode, GZ, lift it up, zooming in, GZ, and out, and scale. And yeah, we don't have to be so ambitious with this one. I think it's fair enough now. Control R and rotation scale. And there we go. Now we can leave isolation mode. Probably I placed it too far off. And there we go. We have another building. So I'm rotating, going back to the view, and Z-axis 0 value, edit mode, zooming in, GZ, lift it up. Make sure there's enough. Leave it and scale until this door size is matching. Control A, rotation and scale, and there we go. So now this is the scene that I want to work with. And as you see, all the buildings are standing on the ground. So if you watch this, N value, this Z value is showing if the building is elevated or not. So if you have a little bit of a city scene with steps or differences or sidewalks, this can be useful because you can just check this value, just eyeballing it, and then move it away. You can also transform and use these sliders. You can actually do this diagonal movement as well if you do like it. Okay, now it's time to organize the stuff. So we have this cube. Now this cube is not as important, so I'll push it aside. We have a camera, so if we are watching from the camera, nothing is really happening. We want to create this scene. So the set of these houses. So I will drag this one because this is the center kind of image, and I will keep this origin as kind of the focus point. So here's this building, and just move it away. And as you see, I like to rotate and use the transform gizmo for these because it's visually easier to see it. However, hotkeys are quite fast and great, but sometimes it's just easier to manipulate this way, especially if you are working in perspective. You can also do this once you know where the items are. You can also do this in top view, but in top view these are looking like edges, so you have to use a wireframe. I have a shortcut for that, but the wireframe can be found here. So basically this one, and it's not exactly the same as this wireframe. Okay, so be careful with that. What you can do is also right click and add to quick favorites. but I have it in quick favorites, and I also have a hotkey for that. But this is just the layout. So if you want to do the same with sculpting, for example, then you have to do another hotkey or another quick preference set for that workspace as well. So now this will be, yeah, the angle. Great. So here's this building. And just move it around. So as you see, the camera will be placed somewhere here. So everything is try to face to the camera. I'll create a bit of overlaps here and there. This is the sweatshop or bakery. It's bakery. And just move it here. And again, you have to have a little bit of a distance between the buildings. And if we check it from the camera, we're still off, but it's a lot closer. So definitely we have to adjust the camera. And just to create a kind of a framing for a composition, I will Shift D, copy this one on the x-axis and move it and rotate it around and create this look. Okay, so let me see it. Good. Now, so we're moving in. I'm using the middle mouse button and Shift and Control to zoom around, and just Shift for panning and zooming, and looking for a view that looks promising. Okay, so I try to keep my eyesight on the ground level and creating a composition that's working with the HD standard layout. So once we have it, the camera itself is active because that's the only one. That's the camera. This indicates, this little thing indicates that that camera is active. Now, if you have a perspective set and we have an active camera, if you press Ctrl Alt and numpad 0, it will convert your 3D viewport into a camera position. So right now, the previous pose that I've been, the virtual camera for the software, the viewport camera, is actually replaced with the 3D camera. Okay, so that's nice. We can zoom in. This is what the camera sees. And before we are going into some details, let me zoom out a little bit and share some thoughts. Now, this camera has a specific focal length. The focal length is available here and also here. So now I would change this focal length. This is for the view. So if I'm leaving this, then I can adjust, but that's for the view. So I will set it to 50. But if I'm going back to the camera, this is for the camera. Now, if you go low, this is what happens. If you go low, you have to zoom in a little bit better. But as you see, the angles will be stronger. This is helpful if you want to show a lot of things, but it's not helpful if you want to match it with a 2D environment. Or it's not helpful if you want to move the camera a lot, because moving with these cameras can be a little bit crazy. Just let me quickly show this. This is the lock camera to view. So now I'm going to rotate around, zooming in. And as you see, if I'm moving up and down, it goes really crazy because of that. Even if we're zooming more, it will be more and more dizzy. All right. So this camera to view, you can find it here. So letter N, open up camera to view, right click and add to quick favorites. And then you can press Q and here we go. You can go back and forth with this one. So focal length should be above 50. If you are combining 2D with 3D. So 70 millimeters, this is how it looks. Now let me go back with the camera to view. And as you see, these are not perfectly parallel, but these are quite believable. Okay, so that adds a feeling. And if you want to move around things, it will be also helpful. And the composition is also a little bit easier. Let me just drag this because it's now covering the part. And working on a composition. Now, the camera position is this. So the camera is selected, and the normal height is 1.5 or 1.55. Now, if you adjust that, but your composition is off because the camera is showing too much of the ground, it is a free camera. So let me leave this and show this to you, that this camera is a free camera. It has no target. So every move that you make is basically happening through this position. So if you make a tiny move here, it will be a lot of change on a scene. So to avoid that, you can create a specific camera and link things together. But another little trick that you can use is to go to View and Navigation and go Walk Navigation, and then you can just move it around. Okay, so just move it around, and if you're satisfied, it's going up and down. And as you see on the top right corner, the 1.5 meters, it's not changing. So this value is not changing. This is why I have this walk navigation in the quick favorites, so I can adjust it right away. So Q, walk navigation, just to move it slightly, working on a composition, and that's it. Like it. All right. So now we have the camera composition. It may be updated, so it's not changed. What else we want to do? As you see, the camera icon is very small. We want to build an environment behind it. So for that, it's better if you scale up the camera. So just be careful not scaling in the opposite direction. So scale up the camera, and when this camera cone is, this view cone is scaled up, it will be easier to eyeball if something is off or what's behind. Okay, so now you can physically see how much space you have in the background. Okay, looks perfect. Now we have a few mountains, so definitely we want to, and we can use that. So I'm creating a few mountains. Now let me go to the top viewport and use the I want to grid snap and G and snap it this center point. Okay, now we're going to go back, turn off the snap. Shift and tab is to turning on and off the snap. And if you just temporarily, if you want to use, you may use the control for temporary use. But right now the 3D gizmo is placed here. So when I'm pressing Shift A mesh and calling in the mountains, and I will call all of the mountains, including this. No, mountain 1 is not needed. So A, B, C, D, but I will explain what's going on here. These will be placed right there. Okay, so A, B, C, D. And the items that you have here, this is mountain 1. So that means it's one mountain that's cut out. Behind it, this is the second one, this area. And the part that's covered here is actually repainted. So this part is repainted. This part, the bottom of it, it's also covered. It was covered, but it's repainted. As you see, it's not as detailed, but if you start moving the camera and the camera looks behind these, then it won't be an issue. And these are not rotated because these are imported. These are wider pictures, and they're imported in this way. So let me go to tab and GZ, and lifting them up, GZ. Okay, tab, and right now I'm just scaling them up like a lot. Okay, so that's a good reference. So let me go and press G and move it around and look at it from the camera. Okay, that's looking good. Right now, before we are moving on, let me show you something. So here's the model, and usually, as you see, these pictures are arranged in a kind of a circular ways. So they're like little spoke heads. They're pointing towards the camera to reduce the distortion. You can keep it. There are multiple ways to do it, but that's a good thing. Now this one is not. So this one has no function like that. This is pretty flat. Now if you panning with the camera, rotating with the camera, this may be not good for you because it will distort the images in a weird way. So what we can do is we can actually bend it. But because it's a plane without resolution, we have to have first resolution. So let me show you this little process. It could be really helpful if you have background layers, for example, or something that's a little bit larger and you want to create this bend effect. So Control 3 is actually a shortcut of calling the subdivision surface modifier. So if you're in a 3D viewport in the layout, Control 3 will do that. If you're in sculpting, it will create a multi-res modifier. And here, if I'm turning off optimal display and turning on my wireframe, again, wireframe is here, you will see that this is like melted. So to avoid that, you can choose simple. And in some cases, the corners are chipped. And in advanced mode, there is like keep boundaries, keep corners, and that keeps or boundary areas. So it will be fairly straight. Now, as you see, this level 3, it's not crazy, so I'll increase it to 4. But I also want to increase the render. Okay. That's nice. Now what else? Maybe 5. Okay, it's not a crazy amount of polygons, but it's definitely nice. Okay, so what else do we need? Of course, we want to bend it. So here's this model, and I will press S. Now Shift S, and cursor to select it. So now the 3D cursor is placed here. So when I'm creating and Shift A plane axis. The plane axis is very small. Well, let me change it to about 10 meters and the look of a cube. So now 5 meters is fair enough. Okay, so now we have this center thing. This is called, and this is something that's really interesting, and I have to talk about this. Maybe earlier I should spend some time on it. But as you see the names, these names are automatically borrowing the name of the file that you have created. So proper naming is quite crucial because names will be imported. So here, this is mountain 001A. I'm pressing function key 2 and copying this one, selecting the empty, function key 2, pasting, and empty. Okay, so this will be an empty that's dedicated to it. Now selecting this model and this model, and we can connect them, but not necessarily. Right now I'll just keep it simple. So add modifier, and the modifier is not bending, it's called simple deform, and simple deform, in it there is bend. So there we go with bending. Now it's bending, however it may be not the right direction. So I'm picking on Z, and because it's not the good direction, I'll try to manipulate through this external object. And as you see, just because the external object is oriented in a different way, I can do that. Now if the angle is off, just go with it, and now I'm bending to about, it's minus 100, for example. Minus 100, just to make perfect. Okay, so that's it. And then you can move it away. And if you move it away, it will keep respect of the center of the change. So it's better if you move them as one. If you're satisfied and you don't want to change it, you can always apply it. Now, the geometry may be blocky. Okay, you can see these edges that's coming from the 3D mesh. So don't forget to select it and right click and shade smooth. And now it's smoothed out. Let me check this in a perspective viewport and see for myself how it goes. I think it would be better if this is, you can see the reference. So here it's not enough, so we want to increase the size a little bit before we are moving on. Now here it may be tricky a little bit. So the reason is you have now one viewport, but we can go up to this right corner, left corner, my bad, and make it a viewport camera. So I'm pressing 0, and now we have this camera view, and of course this panel is just overly sized. We can reduce it. We can also go up here and yeah, navigate, and we don't want to have the T toolbar, so now I'm pulling it back, and this is great. So we have a reference, and in the 3D window it will be slightly easier to change. So now I'm selecting the sky and scale it up and move it around a little bit, probably adding some distance. Okay, so yeah, the peak is out of the composition. Maybe the camera is looking too low, so I can now select the camera as well, camera, and see what I can do to lift this up. And Q, walk navigation, and lift this up. That is correct. All right. Now, going back, we have a lot of mountains here, so it's time to work on those. First, going in, drag, zoom in, GZ, make sure that the location is correct. S, scale it up, and I will now Control A, apply rotation and scale, and move it in. And as you see, it's already visible here in the camera, and it's huge. We can add some distance, and something is happening here, and I will explain it just in a second. But let me complete the rest of the work. Front, tab, GZ, going up. Oh, it looks fine, perfectly fine. Okay, Control A, rotation scale, going in. There we go, and it's not even visible for the camera. Okay, so if I'm bringing it back, it will become visible. And if I move it further, it won't be visible. And that's because of camera clipping. So what to do with camera clipping? Just in a second. So first we have to select the camera, go to the camera settings, and here we have clip start, and here we have clip end. Now clip start is for example, if you have a room and there's a wall and you're looking from the outside, you try to look inside the room, but there's a wall because it's modeled like a solid object, and then you can use this clip start to quickly cut through the wall and start the record once the camera is clipped in the thing, so you can look inside some parts. It's also good for modeling. It's also good for special setup where you hardly find the thing or specific selections, but here it's just only problematic. So we had to increase the range of the camera, so now we can perfectly see that. Oh my god, it's not that one. So we can see that where we are, right? And I will scale this up because I want to cheat a little bit. All right, because when the camera starts moving, it will be interesting to see how the peak is moving differently than this one, and this is called parallax effect. And the further apart is an object, it will look like it's moving slower according to the camera movement. All right, the last one, it's somewhere here, it's hidden here. Zooming in, tab, GZ, going up, leave. Oh no, 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 no. Just the opposite. Okay, Control A, rotation scale, and just moving it around. And yeah, that's really in the distance, but it would be fun. Okay, perfect. So let me go in here. Now we can create a sky. We can create an image base. I have prepared an image, but it's a good idea to know and learn about some add-ons. And this is called Dynamic Sky, and this version of Blender is 4.2.1. It has some update and change in the preferences, the way you load plugins. So I'm pressing Control comma, and here we have this get extensions. So add-ons, now this is Dynamic Sky, so you can look for Dynamic Sky. If you don't find Dynamic Sky, you may want to go and look around for extensions. So you may find a button called Show Available or Turn On, and look for the web resources. Now this one is already updated, so it will not show that type of thing. But when you type in Get Extensions, you can type Dynamic Sky. It's installed Dynamic Sky, and Extensions Blender is the website. So you can directly download it here, and Blender can automatically download it for you, or you can go to Extensions Blender and look for the zip file and download it. Now, if you download it automatically here, you can just hit on install and it will run. But if don't, for example, you have a specific add-on like Blender Kit, it will be different. So add-ons, and now I'm typing in Sky because I want to enable it. So I'm enabling the Sky, and the moment you enable it, it will show this Create button, and those are the settings. So you can find the settings there, right? Now let me close this one. You don't need to do anything else. Go to hit Create, Dynamic Sky, Create, and you will get a message that please select the world named Dynamic 1. Now the world is world properties from the properties world, and they should have include the icon because it's a lot easier to find it that way. And here, this is another icon, and this is what you change. So Dynamic 1, and now you have a sky, except you don't have a sky. So it takes some time to load, but you still won't see the sky. So what you want to do is you want to use a render view. Now, before you do the render view, it's now working with Eevee, as I say. So the rendering engine is Cycles here. So I will switch back to Eevee. And this is a good computer, but I don't like to wait too much on things. So I will reduce this sample everywhere. And now pressing Z and the rendered, and it will show the sky. So let me move it around, and as you see, this is the sky. Okay, this is quite foggy one. We have the sky color is pretty white. We have the horizon color is just bright white. So I will just go in, and the first thing I will do is I will reduce the cloud opacity a lot and cloud density a lot also. So horizon color is a little bit darker, a little bit more bluish. And of course, if it's too bluish, it would generate a dark scene, but it's working fine. And a little bit bluer color. Okay, so sun value, wow, it's just going crazy. Let me leave it as 1. And we also have a sunlight, and that sunlight can have effect. So right now, just testing out things. So I'm pressing function key 12 to hit render, and here we are. This is our render. Okay, so if the cutout is not perfectly made, or you have a white-ish edge around, so you've cut out from white, that may need review, but as you see, it's depending on the cut. And also, because it's transparency, the sample number can do a better job. And of course, cycles can create a much more nicer thing. However, the speed here is quite significant. So This is why Eevee is doing pretty well with this one. Okay, so cloud color. However, we have no clouds. Now, it's time to look for the light. And as you see, there's something that could be a little bit disturbing. So we have a lot more things around. And it may be a good idea to organize these things. So for example, one way to organize is if you rename them and add an extension like 1_ camera cube. This is the size reference, function key 12. 1_. So all these will belong to this group 1 and lights. So now in alphabetical order, these are coming at the top. You can also do and create a new collection and rename it as mountain. And just drag these into the mountain. So what's the benefit? You can just actually turn them off, like all, if you're turning off the layer, or just simply hide it away and it's gone, or just the rendering is off. So it's up to you. Okay. Right now, sky color, shadow, saturation, brightness. Changing the brightness. Changing the sky color. Okay. The sunlight color. Okay, we're not working with a tone. This is also not important at the moment. Just changing too much on the color. Okay, so that's it. Let me go back to tool. And we definitely want to have a ground on it and a texture. Now these, if you look at these and we go to shading, it may take a few moments. When you import, it will generate a shade for you. So this is the imported texture, and the alpha is linked, and you have this roughness and everything, and the transparency. So we can go out and create a ground, Shift A, and plane. And because this was here, I will delete this. Press Shift C. It will reset the origin, the cursor point, and Shift A and plane. So now I don't have to worry about this, and just scale it up and rotate it around. And maybe don't need that much of a scale, but it's good. It's just a single polygon anyways. It's not a crazy thing. Okay, we want to have a texture. So go to shading, and in the texture palette, you can hit a new, or you can click here right away and rename it to ground and stone. And using node wrangler can help. So if I'm selecting this one, this is highlighted in white, and Control T, but it's not working, so that means this plugin is not installed. So Control comma or edit preferences will land you here, and we're looking for node wrangler. So let me enable it, and then Control T works like this. So it adds a slot for the image texture, the mapping coordinates, texture coordinates, and two reasons we need these two the most. So we want to open and load the texture, and we want to adjust the scale for the tiling repetition. So open, sources, and tileable stones, and going here, selecting, I'm holding down the left mouse button. I can drag across the sliders and move this down. So if it's hard to adjust, you can hold on the Shift key, and then you will be able to adjust it with a little bit less increments. So the incremental numbers are a little bit smaller. So 15, almost 15. So let me go to the camera and simply test it and see for myself. Now this looks a little bit bright. The texture is barely visible. If we are switching the camera and looking from a different angle, it may coming up, it won't be an issue. But right now it's not as it should look. So what we want to do is maybe increase the roughness, and let's take a look how it affects. Okay, yeah, it's different in cycles. It's a little bit different because we don't have now too many shadows. I will switch to cycles and see if the result is looking that much more better. But for cycles, reducing the sample numbers is also important, because otherwise it would just very, very slow. So let me go in here. So cycles turned on. We can adjust a little bit of the ground and create the shade. So Shift A, bump, and drop it here, and this to normal, and this to height, and 0.2. It will generate a little bit of a roughness. So just adds some texture. Okay, we don't need to go overboard. It's just working as is. All right, and now it's time to add the, okay, we have the background, in the layout, we have the sky, and importing a car. Now we can use Blender Kit for that. That's a great solution. So open up the panel of preferences, and in the extensions we have so this extension is not on the main Blender side. This is called Blender Kit. And Blender Kit, you can download it. It's a zip file with this name. You can place it anywhere. And the way to install is to go with preferences. And here, this is a little bit hidden now. So get extensions, install from disk, install, load, and it will ask where is it, and you can download it. And if you have it already, you can just type in Blender Kit, and Blender Kit Online Asset Library. So you can just enable, and what you will see is this little bar. And here's the 80s cartoon car I wish for. So I'll just look around and load it. It may be a little bit sloppy sometimes, so you want to open it up again, and then it's there. Voila. Now before import, I will create a new folder, new collection, and rename it to car. And now drop it in here, and there we go. So that's the car. And of course we want to animate only this empty object. Okay, so this empty object is basically everything is linked to the object. We will start and animate the scenes, so there will be a little bit of a movement of the camera, and maybe we can add slightly more things. So just as a refresh animation, and here we have the timeline, but it's completely different. So the set is not exactly matching to the visuals that we already have. So I will just keep it at layout and simply zoom out, and this is our camera view. So just select this one and move it out from the camera right now, because it's just too early to deal with the car, but later on we will do that. So now rotate, and it's not showing the local coordinate. So if we want to show the local coordinate, we should use the comma key to go local, and then this whole thing, as you rotate it, it updates, so it's a little bit easier to control the overall movement of the car. Okay, so let me go back. You can also switch here to global and local. Now global, let me go to the camera, And the frames, it's going from 1 to 250, and that's good, but we don't need that much, so I'll go to 200 only. And let me check the render time. So for test rendering, we should check it, and it's fairly slow. So I go to Eevee. It's 10 seconds. Just it's fair enough, honestly. But it's low compared to Eevee. So let me check it with Eevee, how that works. What's the main difference? It's not that much different, but it's definitely a much faster result. So I will keep this for now. And okay, animating the camera. So first of all, this is 200. We are at first keyframe. So shift and space up is the you can switch between the keys if you have already. If you just want to go to the front, it's shift left click, shift right on the right arrow. I mean, then it will go to the front and to the last keyframes. So right now that's our goal. We want to select the camera that's in the first collection, and if you renamed it, it's fairly easy to pick that one camera. And now if you hit I in the viewport, it will create keys. So now these are, let me undo this. So this means these tracks are not animated. If you press I, now these tracks are animated. If you move away, these tracks will become green. That means these tracks are animated, but they don't have any keyframe. Now if I'm using the arrow key, up and down, I can move up and back, but right now we have only one keyframe, so I'm moving to the last one, 200, and I will make a change now. Now to make the change, we should go and lock camera to view again, view, camera to view, start moving around with the camera. So I will lift up the camera a bit, and we'll actually zoom in with the camera. So that's a dolly move in with the camera. Probably a slight rotation is also good idea. So that's what I do. Now, if I'm going back here, it shows that this new color is coming in. That means you have made the change, but it's not recorded. So it's not green. That means you have made a change. It's not as the same as the first one, but there's something there. If you press I, it will place a key, and now the key is visible as well. So let me just elevate it a little bit. So now we have this animation. Okay. So this is going slowly, and that's it. Okay, so we can see through here. All right, now what else? This animation starts, this movement starts slowly, and it slows down at the end as well. This is automatically created. Now, one way to fix it is just simply resize this timeline, press Ctrl Tab, click on normalize. This is a good idea because that will show every animated key. If you use basically somewhat similar keys, the numpad, comma will zoom in to all selected. And the keyframes you have is, if you press A, it will select all. You can press V, and these are the handle types. And if you choose vector, these will be kind of straight things. Now, these handles can be fairly annoying. So here's if you use Control H, it will hide away the handles. Control H again, it will show the handles. So when you see and you think you have a key here and there, no, you don't. This is just the handle. Okay, so this is how you should avoid that. Okay, we don't need the wireframe lock anymore, the camera lock anymore. So this is the movement. Now it's a straight movement. We can also animate a few more things, but right now, this is kind of a nice movement. We will start from here, and I want to make this car coming in. So at the moment, it's not visible there. So I'm going to go to the first keyframe, which was actually the number 1. That's the keyframe. It's not 0. And just move it out. And because we have this camera view, this cone, we can clearly see that the car is not appearing yet. So now I'm adding keys. And the cursor is here. And moving to 200. And the car is going along, maybe rotating slightly, creating a okay, I was not recording the key. This is what happens. No big deal. Moving around and moving around and do that, and hit I to record the changes. And if we want to have a uniform speed, again, selecting all the keys, V vector, and there we go. Okay, it's not going on a path. It's just a simple movement. It's not corrected, but if you wish, you can correct it through the keys and the controls that you have, so you can access to the location and play with those, or look for path constraint. All right, now let me take a look at the camera and look how it's working. So the car is fairly slowly going through. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and we see what's going on. Okay, what else should I do? Maybe I want to use something more. Like what else? What happens if we already have an animation and we want to import it? So how to do it is going to the first keyframe, Shift A, Mesh Plane, and I'm looking for the sequence. This sequence is transparent PNG, but it's an animation, so it's a girl waving. And the shader it will be a shadeless, so it won't cast shadows on its own, so it will be totally full with the diffuse. And this is static image sequence, so this is a sequence. Everything is selected. It's quite a few pictures. It's not a big size as you see, but it's quite a few pieces. And I will import it. So let me look at here. Here's the girl. Okay, so it's imported. Go to the front view, lift her up, and if this is 2 meters, she should be a little bit bigger. And yeah, just to match to the environment. So let me see. Oh yeah, that's quite believable. Okay, and the legs, we want to put her in the right position. Okay, there we go. And I don't know if it's close to the camera or not. I will just push it a little bit closer to the camera and make that wave and see if the camera is, yes, so she's waving and the camera is passing. We don't have keyframe for 0. This is why it happens. This is why it's looked like that. So it's imported at 1, and it will start from 1. So she's waving, and there we go. All right, maybe we can see more of her. That's fine. Now, what else? Before we jump in with the camera, we can also play with the depth of field. So another mesh plane, and I will import a tree, foliage tree, and use it. Go to the front. Yes, there we go. And tab and GZ. Okay, tab and scale up. Scale up. Okay. So this tree will be quite close to the camera. So I want to cover a part here, and the car will actually coming from behind. So that's what we're looking for. And when the camera starts, where's the girl? I'm looking for the girl. Here's the girl. So when the camera starts, I want the girl to be the focus. So camera and depth of field, enable depth of field, focus on object. So I will go with the object, and I bet it's not necessarily good. So maybe picking this distance, that's 65 meters, which one is great. So now I will, at first keyframe, I will hit I in here and animate it. So now the focus distance is animated as well. I will turn on off these. So now it's animated, that distance. And I would change it. So as we are going at 200, this should be, again, I will pick this up, and this should be at the tower. And going back and hit I to have that keyframe. And of course it could be straight, so I'll select all and press V for vector. So now it's constantly updating and changing the focus on the building. So that will be visible in the tree, for example, or in the car. All right, let me go and test if this function, this frame is 164. And to have a little bit stronger effect, this 2.8 seems to be low. So I will increase or decrease it 0.5. Go to the very first keyframe and render it and see how it works. So now the girl is blurred, and yeah, it's 65, so the girl is blurred. And here in this one, let me check it, the tree is blurred. Okay, but for whatever reason, for the girl, it looks not so good. So maybe the distance is off. Let me check the distance manually. I will hide it away and measure a distance, and it's not 64, and there was something off. Maybe it's picked the big plane. It is 38. Undo, Alt H to hide away everything. Select the camera, go to the very first keyframe, set it to 38, and hit I to have it. So a little bit of a troubleshooting. So now we are at the first keyframe. Let me check this actual is working. So now the mountains are blurry, the girl is there, so that's visible, the girl is there. It's my bad composition that the girl is standing on here, but you can clearly see this one is working. All right, now it's time, and even if with that, with the depth of field and things like that, it was 1.35 seconds. Okay, so let me just going back, and we can actually render this out. Now to render this out, what should we do is go to the settings, output, sizes looks fine. It's not a PNG, it will be FFmpeg, and encoding will be MPEG-4, quality will be fine, and it's not a temp folder. I will create this folder, create a new one, and that will be render, and start the render file there. It's test 001 and underscore accept. So that will go, and it will render the whole 200 frame. I will save this now because this is the set file. Going in, and of course we can add more and more later on, but right now it's just like that. And let me start with the rendering. But before, actually, I will just to reduce the time required and not waiting for the render, but all the render settings are done. I will just simply go to View and Viewport Render Animation. And as you see, it's 35, 38, 40. So it's going there. It's just a viewport, so it's not taking adjustments. I mean, it's not, the sky is not there. And because the sampling is lower, you will see the cutouts a little bit cleaner. But if you increase the sampling, or you make the cutouts on a different background, or change it, or adding feather in Photoshop if you're using that, you can smooth out these cutouts, just as you see in the mountains. Okay, we are going 167. And almost there. Okay, so I think it's done. Let me close it and look for the folder, render, and here we go. This is the test. The car is coming in. Yeah, and this is just a viewport. All right. Now, with all the settings, if you press Control Function key 12, that will render out in the final quality. And if you're looking for, you can increase and change. You can use grease pencil, combine 3D models with it. But it's just this is a quick way to create a 3D-ish 2D scene for yourself. All right. Hope you enjoyed and find it useful. Thank you very much. See you next time. Goodbye.